The gospel reading for this Sabbath day comes from the gospel according to Luke, the 9th chapter, verses 51 through 62, and that's on page 70 of the New Testament, for those of you who like to follow along. Luke 9, verses 51 through 62. When the days drew near for him to be taken up, Jesus set his face to go to Jerusalem. And he sent messengers ahead of him. On their way, they entered a village of the Samaritans to make ready for him. But the Samaritans did not receive him, because his face was set toward Jerusalem. When his disciples, James and John, saw it, they said, "Lord, do you want us to command fire to come down from heaven and consume them?" But he turned and rebuked them. Then they went on to another village. As they were going along the road, someone said to Jesus, "I will follow you wherever you go." And Jesus said to him, "Foxes have holes and birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head." To another he said, "Follow me." But he said, "Lord, first let me go and bury my father." But Jesus said to him, "Let the dead bury their own dead. But as for you, go and proclaim the kingdom of God." Another said, "I will follow you, Lord, but let me first say farewell to those at my home." Jesus said to him, "No one who puts a hand to the plow and looks back is fit for the kingdom of God." You can tell my voice started to change this. Grab a coffee right here, see if that helps. Yesterday, after living in our home 5 years, Kathy and I rearranged our bedroom. We moved the bed to the opposite wall, chest of drawers and the wardrobe to its opposite wall, and we cleaned everything, dusted everything that was behind things, and just did a thorough cleaning. And then it came Kathy's bedtime, and all of a sudden we had to decide, well, are we still sleeping on the same side of the bed, or you know, traditionally I allow her to sleep on the side closest to the door to the bathroom, because that's what gentlemen should do, right? But anyway, we got settled. When I got up this morning, when Kathy got up, I asked her how she slept, and she said, well, something to the effect, well, I slept, but it didn't seem right. There's something about the way we order our homes that feels comfortable. And when we move things around, we get disoriented. And it doesn't feel right. It's not a new experience for most of us. If you've ever gone to a hotel on a trip and the air conditioner, when it kicks on so loud it jars you awake, or the people running up and down the halls, or something, the way the light comes in the room, you don't get very good rest even though you're tired. There's something disoriented about being away from your home and your place. The same thing could be said about people, like say the people who were massacred in Orlando. They had a place, a bar, where they felt safe, where they could walk in. They knew where everything was. They knew the regulars and where they usually gathered. They knew the type of music. They loved to dance and to party. It was like a second home to them. They felt safe and secure and comfortable. But then someone, we might say deranged, we still don't know whether he's a terrorist or a jilted lover, comes in with an assault rifle and a handgun and kills more people than have ever been killed in a mass murder in the United States. All because, supposedly, they're gay. People in the news yesterday were going back to this bar and standing outside, and they report about how difficult it was for them to return because the slaughter had destroyed their sense of safety, their sense of home and place. They were disoriented. They were displaced. We also see it when things in the church change. I have been part through the years, not by choice, but by circumstances, to be part of churches who were going through transitions, either because of age or demographics or population or finances. And the hardest thing in the world to do when you enter into a situation like this is, as change happens, to try not to let the people who were there before feel like the church has changed out from under them and it's no longer their church. Because the church that they call their church home, they had their place. And even to this day, whether we have no assigned seats, but I can tell you where people are going to sit every Sunday morning. And so when things start changing, whether it be a new hymn we're not familiar with, or a new policy out of the church council, or anything, the way the furniture is rearranged, it can be disorienting. And you can become to feel like you're being displaced, and it's no longer your church. Well, that's kind of what Jesus was talking about. The Son of God has no place to lay his head. Now, I am a local born, which means I try to be rooted in my community. I used to be a very strong liberal who believed that I was going to change the world. And that if everybody got together and held hands, we would change everything and there'd be peace on earth. I got abused so many times I kind of gave up on that. But I did find that by caring about my neighbor, caring about the local business people in the area in which I lived, that I could actually see face to face and recognize and understand their lives and what they're struggling with, that there I could actually make a difference. But not only that, they could make a difference for me. And that together our lives were enriched. But those things too can come under threat and become disoriented when we try to hang on to certain things, landmarks, restaurants, the way we interact with certain neighbors. Someone new moves into the neighborhood and things change. And it doesn't feel the same. So there's this temptation, and it's normal human behavior, to always try to keep things the way they are. Part of it is we want to control our own lives. We know intellectually that's a myth and impossibility, but yet we do everything within our power to try to control and resist change. Because change is, in reality, is disorienting. It feels threatening. We become displaced in our own homes.
There's a quote I wanted to share with you that comes from a commentary, a devotion book I read, that's based on the lectionary readings, and this has to do with the reading that Donna read for 2 Kings, in which he points out Elisha has no guarantee that God will give him the same gifts that Elijah received. Elisha pursues his call with no guarantee that God will respond. Elisha follows what he understands to be God's will, although he does not know clearly what God's will for him is. Elisha must discern God's will by participating in events. He must watch the chariot in the whirlwind. He must pick up the mantle. He must attempt to part the Jordan. Elisha confirms his call through his actions. One of the disadvantages of becoming too comfortable in place is this sense that we are entitled. That the generation before has handed down the same place and authorities and traditions, and that we are filling that role, and we have the freedom and the power to define what that role is for ourselves. But the truth of the matter is that disciples who seek to follow Christ really don't know with any kind of surety what God is calling them to do. Now, we can read the Bible, we can do adult forum and study the Bible, and we can talk social justice issues until we're blue in the face. But if we don't go out and meet people, or if we don't welcome people in, and break down these boundaries of belonging and possessing a place and prestige, we will never know what God is calling us to do. Because we are taking on a posture of God is calling us to protect our place, which is not what the Bible teaches. It's not what Jesus' life was about. Jesus went out as a homeless man, dependent on the charity and hospitality of those who would take him in. And not everyone received him. And he would have to leave one village for another. Some people were wanting to be his followers because they had anticipated that somehow or another it would benefit them. And all they needed was to put their lives in proper order, to bury their dead, to say goodbye to their families. And Jesus says, no, that life is not the life you're being called to. You're calling to a discipleship that is displaced from control of home and community. You are called to be completely open and free to the people who come before your face, no matter who they are or where they are on life's journey. And that's hard. It's easy as long as everybody who comes in here is kind of similar or close to the same as we are. But when someone comes in that has a life totally different, we don't know how to respond. We don't know how to make room in our place for them. And the truth of the matter is, the only way to make room for them is to displace our own place. And that can be painful. And it can be threatening. That's what discipleship is all about. Whether they be Samaritans, lepers, sex workers, foreigners, homeless people. It didn't matter. Even the Pharisees and Sadducees who came trying to trap Jesus were welcomed and accepted for who they are, even if he called them for who they were. He spoke truth to power, but he did not love them. He honored them and he recognized them for who they were. Then he tried to teach and help. So discipleship, as Bonhoeffer says, there's a cost to it. It's not discipleship if there isn't a cost to it. And there's no getting around to it. And these things that we hang on to that provide us with comfort and belonging and place actually can be a hindrance, a stumbling block to our fulfillment of our call to be disciples. Now here's the good news. Place never can give us the security we like to think it does. But our love and relationship with another human being can. Our position and our control of our place in life cannot provide us with the security that we think it will. But our love for our neighbor can. This is what Jesus is trying to get us to recognize. It's not that we have to leave home and become homeless, or that we can't bury our dead. We can't say and take care and nurture our families. That's not what this means. What this means is those are an attribute of our ability and willingness to be open and vulnerable to loving one another. To letting go of control and power and prestige for the sake of love. And so while we may go home to our own beds with pillows, they may not be in the same place. You may kick the bed in the middle of the night trying to get out the door. But nevertheless, there are people to love. There are people to care about. Not only within your own home, but within your own neighborhood, where you work, where you play. There are people to love. And they need your love. And you need their love. That's the good news. Nothing special has to happen that's extraordinary or miraculous. We don't need a chariot of fire taking us into heaven. All we need to do is open our eyes and open our hearts to that person sitting beside you that you meet on your way home, at the grocery store, at work, at play. If you can do that, you can, with a sense of confidence, say, I am a disciple of Jesus Christ. In the name of his love, in the name of his peace, and at home in his heart, may his blessings be upon us all.